Hey everyone, it's TV Shores. I'm back. It's March the 29th, 2021. It's 12:49 p.m. Okay, I wanted to touch back on before we move on to the word over and look back into this darkness because there was something that I had forgot to mention that I thought was important. And we're going to scroll down here to where we were. Now remember, we looked at the meaning of shadiness, obscurity, and darkness. And it was all about the craftiness and the trickiness of the enemy and how by causing, he's causing darkness, a darkening within, causing it by a blocking of light, of spiritual light, of the light of the Lord. So it's about a blocking of the Lord's light, trying to bring about a feeling of things not being clear and difficult for us to understand spiritually. And what I wanted to do is back up here. This is what I wanted to show you that I had forgotten about. Was here when we look in the usage, it says it very clearly. It says of darkened eyesight or blindness. Now, keep in mind, this is talking spiritually. We have to look at this spiritually. So this is about creating a spiritual blindness, a darkened spiritual eyesight to where we cannot see or discern or hear the voice of the Lord clearly. It becomes difficult. And this is by the trickery, okay, of the enemy through the stick and what's to come with the implementing of the 5G, because that's not implemented yet. So remember, that goes back to the stages, and once all is implemented to function together as the whole mark, that is when we see a drastic change in things. And I think that's where the Lord is leading us in our understanding. So we'll just continue on till we get to that. But I did want to point this out to make sure that it was emphasized about the spiritual blindness that this is causing. The enemy is causing within, with what has been entered into this temple of our body through the stick. Okay, then we're going to pop over here to this word over. I found this to be very interesting because as I look down here, let me get there, at the definitions and the usage, I read through all of this that you see here, and I read through it about 3 times, saying, Lord, I'm a little confused what you want me to pull out of here. But my attention kept being drawn back to this word. The Lord kept drawing me back to this word. I had no idea what this meant. But as I was trying to find meaning in these other things, it just wasn't there, and the Lord kept drawing me back to this word. So when I looked this word up, I found it very interesting that we're talking about graphics. Now, graphics is about images, okay? Particularly when you consider how computers function, how they take pictures and turn it into a digital, for lack of a better word, format. And that's how it's transferred from one device to another. Okay, so keeping that in mind, think about this. Think about, too, how we know that in the beginning, God created man in his image. I do believe that is a direct link to our building blocks, and understanding that the enemy is wanting to change those building blocks, alter those building blocks. I think we can see a distinct connection there. But superimposition means this is the placement of an image. I'm going to skip this here because it says or video, on top of an already existing image. The placement of an image on top of an already existing image, usually to add to the overall image effect, but also sometimes to cancel something. So I think this speaks to this step thing again, steps and stages. It's about placing a placement. Wait a minute. A placement of an image on top of an already existing image. So the enemy is placing something over what God has already placed within us. Okay, and when we looked at this darkness, it specifically said darkening caused by blocking of light. So if you place something over something in terms of light, that's what you're doing. You are placing something on top of something that already exists to block something out. Okay, and it goes on to say, but also sometimes to cancel something. And I think that speaks to the latter of what will happen when the mark is fully implemented. We're looking at right now just a blocking of something being placed on top of something else. The enemy is placing something on something that already exists. But I think it will lead to a canceling of something once all things are in place. And like I said, that switch is flipped. And there's that moment when it all comes together. And we'll talk about that later. But I thought this was quite interesting. And then when we look at the fact that we know the Lord has shown us back in Daniel 3 the instruments and what we were able to pull out of looking deeper into those instruments, what the understanding was. Particularly where we saw, let me flip back here a minute because I can't remember everything. Where we saw with the cornet, we saw the projecting horn, and that showed us, led us to understand about the 5G, and the flute about the signal that will be transmitted with information and instructions, okay, through sound. So when we look at it from the sound perspective, we can see and come down here, right here, superimposition concerning sound is the process of adding new sounds over existing without completely erasing or masking the existing sound. So here we see again, and I think we can understand from this that whatever's taking place in the physical, which connects to the graphic that we looked up there about placing an image over an already existing image, we can see that how it applies to the enemy's plan. And we can see here where the sound is concerned, because we know the Lord connected us with, back in Daniel 3, with there being a sound connection in this. And it connects us to the 5G system and how that is going to be used as part of pulling all these steps together to implement the mark. Okay, so when we see it from a sound perspective and we see it is the process of adding new sound over existing, we see again it's about the enemy trying to block out the things of the Lord. And we have to keep in mind that there's going to be a point where all these steps that have been put in place will come together as one, as we saw when we broke down Daniel 3. It's about it all coming together. I think the way it was worded, right here it is, to combine two or more things so that they cannot be separated easily. So that's what this is showing us. It's a combining of two or more things right here. You're putting one over the other. But I think when the interlacing comes about it binding it, okay, binding it together, that will be when that so-called switch is flipped, and all these steps that have been put in place come together as one. Okay. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to say about this. Let's see here. Let's pop back over here to this scripture. Seemed like there was a thing or two the Lord led me to after I understood what this superimposition was. And you know, it's about placing an image over an existing image, putting sound over existing sound. It's about trying to drown out, muffle, or block, okay, the things of the Lord from entering in. And so we can see that upon, on, across, over, all apply when we look at it from this superimposition understanding. Something else that the Lord drew me to after He had me to understand that is it's about having charge of. We see that right down here in the definitions. Having charge of. It seemed like, yes, right here. Having charge of in a place, as much as, or in a time. And there again, I think that's speaking to in a place and time when all these things are brought together. That's when having charge means to be in control of. And that's when the complete control will come into play. And let's see, I think I'm going to cut this off here before I get into these other things. And we'll move along with those when I come back. I love y'all. Bye-bye.